This survival film is based on the true events that happened in the life of a man named Chuck Noland. The story of this film has been written about the real incident in Chuck Noland's life. Due to a plane crash, Chuck gets stranded on an island in the ocean. And after being stranded alone on that island for years, Chuck is finally able to return to his family. At the beginning of the movie, Chuck is shown as a high-ranking officer at FedEx Courier Company. And because of this office work, he often has to travel from one country to another. Chuck was in a long-term relationship with a girl named Kelly, and they loved each other very much. They were supposed to get married, but Chuck was so busy with his work that their marriage hadn't happened yet. Now, it seemed that Christmas time is approaching, but Chuck won't be able to stay home then, because he has to go to Malaysia for office work. Chuck tells Kelly he will come home before New Year's, but can't be there for Christmas. And after saying this, they exchange Christmas gifts between themselves. The gift Kelly gives to Chuck is her grandfather's old watch, which had a beautiful picture of her inside it. And Chuck really liked this gift given by Kelly. After exchanging gifts with each other, Chuck begins his journey to Malaysia. Now, when Chuck's plane was flying over the Pacific Ocean, it got caught in a terrible storm. And due to the fierce storm, the plane crashes into the ocean. Since this was FedEx Company's private plane, there was no one else on the plane besides 3 pilots and Chuck. And after the plane crashes into the ocean, everyone on the plane dies, except Chuck. After falling into the ocean, Chuck somehow climbs onto an air-filled lifeboat and then loses consciousness completely. The next morning, when he regains consciousness, he finds himself on an island. Along with Chuck, several courier packages had also washed up on that island, and Chuck collects them and keeps them with him. And after exploring the area around the island a little, Chuck realizes that there is no other living creature on the island besides him, meaning he is completely alone, stranded on that island. Now he writes "help" big in the sand, so that those who come searching for him can find him easily. And then, Chuck waits on the seashore. Slowly, morning turns to night, and Chuck falls asleep while waiting. The next morning, when he wakes up, he sees that half of his "help" writing in the sand has been washed away. But until then, no one had come looking for him. Then, he writes "help" on that sandy spot using tree branches. Chuck has been stranded on this island for more than a day, and until now, he hasn't eaten anything. Now, after searching around a bit, he finds several coconuts. Since he had no weapons, he had to struggle a lot to open a coconut with his bare hands. And after much effort, he manages to drink water from one coconut with great difficulty. Then, he starts exploring the entire island, and then he finds the dead body of one of the pilots from their plane. And pulling the body out of the ocean, he buries it on the island. While burying the body, he finds a flashlight on the pilot, which he keeps for himself. Now, slowly, several days pass, and Chuck has been stranded alone on this island for many days. Suddenly, one night, he sees the light of a ship far out in the ocean, and then he tries to signal the ship by flashing his flashlight. But Chuck's flashlight was so small that the ship couldn't see any signal. Then, Chuck realizes that if he stays stranded on this island like this, no one will ever find him. Therefore, the next morning, he tries to escape from the island using his lifeboat. But the huge ocean waves capsize him and his lifeboat into the water, and scraping against sharp rocks in the water there, Chuck's lifeboat gets punctured. And at the same time, scraping against those sharp rocks, Chuck's leg gets badly cut. Now, injured, Chuck somehow manages to return to his island. Already, not having eaten anything for the last few days, Chuck had become very weak, and on top of that, his cut leg was causing him immense pain. The next morning, he starts opening all the courier packages he had with him. But unfortunately, none of these packages contained any food items. Chuck opened all the packages except the last one. He did not open that one. A wing symbol was drawn on that package. Chuck saved that particular courier package because if he ever got off the island, he would definitely deliver it. And for Chuck, this courier package now became a reason to survive without giving up hope. And after opening so many packages, he only found one useful thing inside, which was an ice skating shoe. And with the help of the sharp steel attached to the sole of that shoe, he could now easily open coconuts and drink the water. Now slowly, Chuck started fishing there. Initially, he couldn't catch any fish besides crabs. But after many attempts, even though he caught crabs, it wasn't possible to eat them raw. So what Chuck needed most right now was to make fire. And then he tries to make fire by rubbing wood against wood. But after trying continuously for a long time, he couldn't make fire at all. Moreover, while trying to make fire by rubbing wood, he scraped his hand badly on the wood. And then, in anger, he started throwing everything around him. Then, near him, there was a football inside a courier package. And Chuck grabs that football with his bloodied hand and throws it hard. After all this, Chuck becomes extremely frustrated. But after a while, he tries to make fire again. And after trying several new methods, he finally manages to make fire. After so much effort and struggle to make fire, Chuck becomes immensely happy there. and while making the fire, Chuck finds that football. The imprint of Chuck's bloody hand was on that football, and Chuck draws eyes, nose, and a mouth on the football. Since Wilson was written on the package of that football, Chuck names the football Wilson. And now, on this island, that football is Chuck's only friend. Chuck would share all his thoughts with Wilson throughout the day. Talking to Wilson like this, Chuck tried to overcome his loneliness. Now, slowly, Chuck's days on the island started passing quite well. He now had fire, so he didn't have to eat raw fish anymore. And now, for conversation, his football friend Wilson was with him. Slowly, several days passed like this, and then suddenly one day, Chuck got a terrible toothache. And slowly, the pain in his tooth became so intense that Chuck decided to pull out his painful tooth. And for that, one night, he started trying to pull his tooth using his skate shoe. He placed the metal part of the skate shoe against his tooth and hit it hard with a big rock. As he did this, the painful tooth came out, but at the same time, Chuck fainted and fell to the ground. Now, it's seen that 4 years have passed since this incident, and today, Chuck has been stranded alone on this island for 4 years, and now he has become an expert at fishing. He learned to stand far away and spear fish with sharp sticks, and now he can eat the fish raw. There's no need to cook them over fire. 4 years ago, when Chuck was first stranded on the island, his appearance and health were very good. But today, after so many years, his body has completely withered away. He looks completely unrecognizable now. Life on the island was passing in the same monotonous way every day. Suddenly, one day, Chuck finds a thin, sheet metal-like object on the island. It had floated in the ocean and washed ashore on Chuck's island. Now, Chuck picks it up, straightens it, and buries it upright in the sand. Then he sits down in front of it. After a while, the wind causes that sheet of metal to fall over. Seeing which, an idea comes to Chuck's mind. He decides to cut down several trees from the island and build a raft out of them. And then, he would use this sheet metal as a sail for that raft. Now, slowly, he started building the raft, cutting down tree after tree. He made rope out of tree bark and tied the logs together. After several months of effort like this, he finally built a raft. And after so long, using the raft, battling through huge waves with great difficulty, after 4 years, Chuck manages to escape from the island. And while leaving the island, Chuck brings Wilson with him. Chuck has now set sail into the unknown ocean with Wilson. Like this, he floated on the raft in the ocean for many days. And in this state, when he got hungry, he would catch fish from the ocean and eat them. And when it rained, he would collect rainwater in coconut shells to drink. After several days passed like this, suddenly one day, Wilson falls into the water from the raft without Chuck noticing. And when Chuck notices it, it was already too late. Wilson had floated far away from the raft by then. Chuck tries very hard to get Wilson back, but can't. After losing Wilson, he felt terrible and broke down crying. Because for these 4 years, Wilson was his only friend, with whom he shared all his thoughts. And today, Chuck lost Wilson completely. After spending several more days like this in the ocean, a cargo ship finds Chuck and rescues him. Now, after so many years, Chuck returns home. But upon arriving, he sees that everything has changed a lot. His friends and family thought he had died. Therefore, they had all held a funeral for Chuck. And meanwhile, his girlfriend Kelly had also gotten married. And Kelly now has a small baby daughter. After learning the news of Kelly's marriage, Chuck breaks down completely, because Chuck truly loved Kelly very much. And on the island, thinking of Kelly every day gave Chuck the strength to survive. But on the other hand, Kelly couldn't help it. She thought Chuck had died in the accident. Therefore, she was forced to marry someone else. Now, after returning home, Chuck goes to meet Kelly, and they talk for a long time. Chuck returns the gift watch Kelly had given him, because it was Kelly's grandfather's watch, and Chuck wanted that family heirloom watch to stay within her family. After talking with Kelly, when Chuck was leaving, both of them became very emotional. After Chuck walks out a little, Kelly runs after him and hugs him, and she says, "I knew you were alive. I knew you would come back one day, but they kept telling me you were dead. That's why I was forced to marry elsewhere. But even today, I love you from my heart." Now Kelly gets into Chuck's car, and for a moment it seems like Kelly might run away with Chuck. But nothing like that happens. Chuck tells her to go back home and leaves from there. The next morning, it's seen that Chuck has started his work again, like before. And the last courier package that he hadn't opened on the island, he had saved it to deliver. Now he is going to deliver that courier package. Upon reaching that address, it's seen that no one is home. Therefore, Chuck leaves the package there and writes a note on it. He writes, "This package saved my life. Thank you." And then he signs his name. Now Chuck comes to a four-way crossroads and gets lost. Then, to find the way, he was looking at his map. At that time, a girl was passing by. She came up to Chuck and gave him directions about which road went where. And then, that girl drove away in her car in the direction from where Chuck had just delivered the package. and on the back of that girl's car was painted the same symbol that was on that courier box. Now, Chuck looks at the girl's car and slowly smiles. Perhaps Chuck was slowly finding new hope to live again. And here the movie ends. If you liked the video, you can subscribe to the channel.